Yes, this one's being done in darkness. This is for people that are in the dark about. This is part of my. This is part of my In the Dark series. I ran across an article, and I was going to put the link to the article under the video, but I'm not because now it won't come up. Every time I go to the website now, the site's down. So if I can ever get the article to come back up, I'll put a link to it. Now, I will say it was an extremely well-written article about how to tell a good Taekwondo school. I would say it was more of a WTF slant to it than really just a general Taekwondo in general. And that's fine. Because WTF, you're not going to be able to get every single facet of Taekwondo in an article like that. But it had some myths in it. I had a bunch of myths in it. And so but it gave me the idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make some videos debunking a lot of martial myths. And because this thing right here is an argument I've seen in other spots, in other articles, and I used to kind of think this way myself. Okay. The idea that the teacher has to work out with you in order to be considered a good teacher. Okay, so if you never see your Taekwondo teacher or Kung Fu, whatever martial art it is, if you never see your martial arts teacher work out with you, then he or she is not a good teacher. All right. I used to believe that too, and I used to try to do that when I finally started teaching. Say, all right, I'm going to work out with my students. And I still work out with my students every once in a while. But, if any students are looking at this, which they probably aren't, I'm going to back off from that. And I will tell you why. Somebody has to supervise and make sure that things are safe. I found that when I tried to get in there and mix it up with students, or when I decided to actually listen to that argument about aliveness and try to make everything more alive. If you don't know what I'm talking about, get on YouTube and search for, I think, aliveness in training. And it sounds like a really good argument, but it's bogus because you need to do more than just alive stuff. You need to do stuff they consider to be dead too. And why do you do that? Because of injuries. And it wasn't me injuring the students, okay? Even when I was an assistant instructor, some guy wanted to come into that class and try to go all, I guess, hard and whatnot. And he ended up hitting himself on me and hurting himself trying to go hard on me, just kicking me, okay? And then when I became instructor of my own thing, I found that I have to keep an eye on people, especially if I got a bunch of beginners. I have to keep an eye on things so that nobody gets hurt. If I try to cater to the ones who think that the only thing you should be doing in the world is sparring, somebody gets hurt. And guess who usually gets hurt? Them. The main ones who think that they are too good to do anything but sparring are the ones that end up getting hurt. Or if they don't get hurt, they get too aggressive with somebody else. They don't respect the ability of the other person and just try to work with each other and improve. Now, I know it's martial arts and injuries are going to happen, but especially where I'm teaching, you got different ages and sizes and varying abilities all in one class. Somebody's got to be in charge. And somebody's got to watch and make sure that everything happens okay. Somebody's got to set stuff up. Somebody's got to make sure that when people are getting carried away, they stay on the mats if they're doing any type of judo. If they're doing Taekwondo, somebody's got to watch and make sure that somebody's not continuing sparring when they shouldn't. You got to walk around and find out who's bleeding and who's not. Some people to be bleeding and they need to stop, but they won't out of pride. So you got to look around and make sure that people are people who need to sit down, and or people who aren't working hard enough need to work hard. You also need to go around and correct people. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get in there with them and start doing the stuff. And I knew it. As soon as I started to get to, I turned around, I looked. I had brand new people, and it's not to slight brand new people, but somebody wasn't doing the stuff right, so I have to correct them. So your teacher is not going to be able to get in there with you all the time, or if at all, because he or she needs to make sure that everybody's doing what they're doing correctly. And you know, to be honest, it's really, to tell you the truth, it's really disrespectful for you to think that your teacher just has to go fight with you all the time. Unless you're paying for private sparring lessons, you are just one person in that class, and you need to be thankful for the time that you get from your instructor. Okay? Your instructor is doing the best they can to help everybody in there. If you want one-on-one personal workout, then you need to pay one-on-one personal workout. Why don't you call for, instead of coughing up $50 for 2 months, why don't you cough up $50 an hour to work out with your teachers? It was one guy, what did he want to charge? He wanted to charge me $300 for private lessons. And you know, I really wish I had the money to do it too, man. Because I think with him was about $300 a month, but the private lessons were $300 an hour. I really wish I could afford that. Could have afforded that. Because I'm sure I'd have got a lot. But anyway, so you know, your teacher is there to teach. Your teacher is not there to be your sparring partner for a long time until you get to the point where that's the only person that can really work out with you. So, you know, somebody's got to somebody's got to be in charge. Somebody's got to watch out for everybody else's welfare. You know what really made it click for me about this idea is I started noticing at the last formal judo class I went to up at College Park. I realized, like, these guys produce world-class competitors, and the most knowledgeable instructors are not out there randorian all the time. They are talking to us and sparring, and they let us lower level black belts get out there and randor. And then I remembered when I was with Grandmaster Ford for that little very brief period, but it's like he was not sparring with me. He was making me work and correcting me. And I started putting it all together. I was like, you know, because somebody needs to teach. And I thought about, well, but when I was in Tongsudo, well, my Tongsudo instructors used to thump on me all the time. But then I realized, but I was ready for that, though. They didn't do that with people walking right in off the street. No, I was ready for that. You got to work your way up. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you think you so special where you want to be your teacher's sparring partner all the time, then you need to earn that. You either need to earn that, or you need to pay for private lessons, and specifically sparring lessons. And you need to pay the fee. Why don't you plop down? I'll say my private lesson rate is $50 an hour. And don't think that you're going to get sparring lessons from me like that if I don't know you. No. Besides, I already tried to offer private lessons through Coach Up. And the people didn't respect my hours that I had through Coach Up. They didn't want to respect my hours. A couple of people contacted me and they saw my availability and still tried to get me to move out of that. And no, that's why I put it on vacation. So I'm going to end this video. Your instructor is not a bum or a lazy teacher because he or she is not working out with you all the time. Maybe your teacher is teaching you. We don't expect the basketball coaches to dunk all the time, do we? We expect them to coach. Same thing applies here.